Hello, BookTube. All right, we're back for, I believe this is part 3 of our August 2021 Q&A. And we are up to Zoe Archer. Hi, Steve and Little Miss Frida. Little Miss Frida is in the window. I don't know what we're going to do today. Today's going to be very hot, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe even a little more than that. It's very low humidity, so it's not punishing heat, but even so, when I take the little bean out on our walk, she is scooting right along thanks to Schnauzer physiology. It looks like she has her butt in the air and is wiggling it very arrogantly. And she just doesn't quit. She just won't quit. And therefore I have to watch for when to quit. Otherwise she'll overheat. She'll badly overheat. I don't want that to happen with either one of us. So our midday walk is going to be a little bit of a problem. It's going to have to be short. She's going to know. She knows already that our midday walk is long, not short. And she's going to know that difference, and she's going to be rancorous about it. And there won't be any way for me to tell her, well, the midday walk is short, but when the sun goes down, when the long hour and a half of sunset, that walk can be long. There's no way that I can tell her that. Dog brains aren't set up to think about the future that way. So anyway, if I'm going to perorate about a simple hello, we're never going to get through these. So let's just continue. I recently got into reading cozy mysteries. As I'm only just starting out, which authors are a must-read? Oh, there are a lot of people on BookTube who know cozy mysteries a lot better than I do. If you type in BookTube and cozy mysteries into the YouTube search bar, you will find channels that are entirely devoted to them. And they'll have starter kits. Better to go to the experts here. I've read some of them because I've read some of everything, but I don't know that I know the field well enough to know where you must start. Especially since cozy mysteries have never been really my thing. As I've said, in a few years of March Mystery Madness, I think there's something, I've always thought there was something a little bit trivializing about a cozy mystery. Cozy mysteries really want you to have the location, they want you to have the fun of sleuthing, they want you to have the outre characters, and the only way they can put emphasis on all those things is to kind of sort of take emphasis off the fact that somebody died, somebody was murdered. And I don't particularly like that emphasis being shifted like that, although I've read my share of very wonderful cozy murder mysteries, but I would suggest going to experts instead. It would take you 2 seconds to look on BookTube and find channels that have answered this question, and you'll probably find channels that you really like, you can subscribe to and really like. So a rare instance which I'm going to pass. Let's see here. Alan Black says, "Hi Steve, what is your favorite translation of Beowulf, Seamus Heaney? Furthermore, what is your opinion on the Ballad of the White Horse by C.K. Chesterton?" Oh, bless your heart. That's an epic poem that C.K. Chesterton wrote about Alfred the Great, and it's terrific. I think it's absolutely terrific. I think it's a shame that no one has bothered to reprint it. As far as I know, no one's bothered to reprint it in a long time. I imagine a popular edition in which it has a new introduction, lots of notes, beautiful cover art. I think it would grip a lot of people if they did. But aside from Father Brown, Chesterton has disappeared completely. All of his great stuff has disappeared completely, including his epic poem. I wish it would come back, but I liked it really. I liked it a lot. Michael Moore says, quick question from England. What are your thoughts on Paul Auster? Is his novel 4321 a recommendation? I've never been a big fan of Paul Auster. I've always thought he was awful sold on himself in a way that really comes through on the page and that I don't like, even when it's kind of synonymous, being a novelist and being an egotist. I still don't particularly like that, especially when it's flaunted in my face the way I think he does it. But I thought 4321 was really, really good. So it is a recommend. Silvertree says, hello Steve, one of my favorite things to do is browse in secondhand and antique bookshops here in England. Do you have very many old books in your collection? If so, what is your oldest? I only have a handful of very old books in my collection, 3 to be precise. One of them is here, 2 of them are in a safety deposit box, and one of those, the oldest of them, is from the era of the Italian Renaissance. And it'd be ridiculous for me to have it here. I was told over and over again. I have been told over and over again over the decades, don't touch this without gloves. Certainly don't read it, don't turn its pages. It was a gift, and that's the only reason I keep it. Otherwise, I would get rid of it. I don't like books that I'm not going to read, that I'm not going to touch, that I'm not even going to have in my home. But it was a gift, and it was a gift under special circumstances, so I still have it. But that doesn't mean that I don't have old books here. I hauled a 100-year-old book yesterday. I have access to the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston, where you can find for $1 out in their bargain lot 100-year-old books every day if you want. I consider that to be fairly old. I think I have a book here that's 200 years old. I think I have a couple of those, a couple of old biographies, but usually not. I deal mostly in new books. Let's see here. Curio says, what do you think about Edward Rutherford's novels? I generally like them. I don't love them. In particular, his latest one about China. I don't know why it was called what it was called. It's a very specific story. It's not a panorama like his, London or The Forest or anything like that. It's not a panoramic story in anywhere near the reach of those other Mishner-esque books. Instead, it's a far more localized story in time. And I thought that it was very effective. I actually liked it quite a bit. And I think I had a reviewer review it in Georgia for Big Canoe News. If I can find an online version of that review, I'm still working to make sure that Big Canoe News knows that nothing exists unless it's online. So and it isn't good enough to just post a digital version of an entire 200-page newspaper. You have to post separate URLs on a website of separate things so that people can go and read those things online, unless you're going to paywall things, but they don't. So I'm not 100% sure if the review is what I'm thinking of. I'm not 100% sure that it is online. If it is, I'll try to remember to put it down below. Let's see here. Emily Jones says, I love your videos. Aren't you sweet? I don't know what's wrong with you, but aren't you sweet? My question is, how did you get into current job? Do you have any advice on having a career within the literary field? Well, I got into this. I got into this job twice. If by this job you mean being a book reviewer, I got into it twice. Once a very, very, very long time ago in the American Midwest, and then once a long time ago here in Boston. And in both cases, I was invited to do it. In both cases, someone said, would you write me a book review? And things just snowballed from there into writing book reviews for lots of people, writing book reviews all the time, writing book reviews for money, and then writing book reviews for a living. And if that's what you mean by entering the literary field, then I feel that I am remiss. I should be reminding you people regularly that in addition to being a sexy influencer and an editor of a print newspaper book section and an online editor of a literary journal, Open Letters Review, and a regularly publishing book reviewer, I'm also perfectly willing to help you if you want to do that too. Open Letters Review is the online journal where I am one of the editors. And our masthead has plenty of other names you're going to recognize, plenty of other booktubers, in addition to other people. It's a good it's good company to be in. And we punch above our weight. Our reviews get noticed. And I'm perfectly happy to help you write a book review to run in Open Letters Review. Plenty of you who are watching this video have already done that. I'm always willing to do that. I'm always willing to help you do that. And I don't mean to sound programmatic about this, but that is a way in. It was true for Open Letters Monthly, the online literary journal that was the precursor of Open Letters Review, and it's true for Open Letters Review. That is a way in. Some of you who are watching this video can testify to the truth of that. I'm not just blowing my own horn. It is actually practically true. That if you write a book review for Open Letters Review, and then you write another one, and then you write a third one, and then you write a fourth one, you have a string file, and you can pitch work elsewhere on the basis of that string file. I'm not in any way suggesting that Open Letters Review is an end destination. I'm saying it's a starting place, and it's a heck of a good one. You write a few reviews for Open Letters Review. We flog them all over social media. We make sure people know about them. You take that as a clip file, what the old print journalism world referred to as a clip file. You now have proof that an editor has liked your work enough to run it more than once. You take that clip file to another editor at some other journal, and you say, here are a list of books that I would like to pitch for you. I'd like to review any one of them. I'm happy to help you with every step of that. I will help you with the reviews on Open Letters. I will help you with finding those other editors. I will help you with pitching, which books to pick, how to pitch. I'll help you with all of that. Once one other editor says yes and runs a piece, then not only do you have a door open there to go back to them and say, okay, you ran this, we got along really well, how about this? So a second piece from them, but you now have another editor in your clip file. That's two people who've approved of your work enough to run it. You can take that to a third person, to a third editor, and say, look, I am no longer an unknown quantity. I am something of a proven quantity. And here's a book that I want to pitch for you, and I already have the book. I'm not going to put you out of any trouble at all, and I'll help you there too. I'd be happy to send you advanced copies if that's what you wanted. I'll help you every step of the way if you're good at it. And there are people listening to me who can attest to the fact that that gets results. You can do it. That is a way into the industry. So feel free to email me on the subject. Feel free to email me. Because the way that I got in the first time and the way that I got in the second time isn't anything that's likely to happen to you. I was asked in both cases. On both cases, I happened to be in the right place at the right time. That's all. So, but there are other ways. You can work your way into the industry, and it will work. Almost certainly, it will work. Anyway, let's see here. Scorched your Schwarzensticken has a barrage of questions. Oh my God, look at this list of questions. All right, let's settle in. The rest of this segment will be just this one person. Number 1, your thoughts on books of aphorisms. I love the one by Emil Cioran. I find his absolutely hilarious. I like books on aphorisms. I passed on one at the Brattle just the other day because I don't tend to like them enough to keep going back to them. But they can be fun. Number 2, you talked before about the difference between a good long paragraph and a bad one. But what's the difference between a good long sentence, Saramago/Pynchon, and a bad one, i.e. Faulkner? In V, I counted a sentence that was 57 lines long. The difference between a good long sentence and a bad long sentence is the same as the difference between a good long paragraph and a good short paragraph, and a bad short paragraph. Is the author in control of it, or are they just showing off? Are they in control of what's going on with you in mind? Are they in control of what's going on with you as an enemy? Someone they want to break? Is the sentence gibberish? Are you only loving how long it is because it's getting you high? If it's bad, it'll be bad for the same reasons as a long paragraph would be bad. It's just a question of you, the reader. But we can't linger because you have a million questions. Number 3, your thoughts on Lars von Trier. It's Dude Bro Cinema. It is indeed Dude Bro Cinema. It might be good, but it is indeed Dude Bro Cinema. Number 4, you talked about Dude Bro books and even painting once, but are there examples of Dude Bro music? I'm sure there are. I don't know music well enough to know. I'm sure there are examples, even in my beloved classical music. I'm sure that there's Dude Bro music. The key will be, one of the keys to know with music that I'm sure carries over from painting or movies or books, will be if the reason the person is extolling it is because of the biography of the composer. If that's the case, Mahler comes to mind. If that's the case, if you ask the person, what do you like about this music, and they start talking about the composer, and then you say, okay, well, what do you like about the composer, and they start talking about how many wives the composer had, then you're in firm Dude Bro territory, yes. Let's see here. Number 5. Nowhere near done with the number of questions from this one person. Number 5, why did David Foster Wallace lie in an interview when he said his editor made him cut 400 pages from Infinite Jest? It's obvious the thing is unedited. The lie came from wanting to impress Dude Bros by getting them to just be extra high, by saying, if you listen to the tone, he said that in a couple of taped interviews. You listen to his tone, it's always, it could have been even longer, dude. I was asked to cut some of it, or it would have been even longer. And that's solely designed to pass the bong from one person to the next. It's solely designed to get Dude Bro readers even higher. It certainly did not happen. You're right about that. It is certainly a lie. He might have been requested by an editor to cut things. At the beginning, he certainly was, but he never did cut anything at their instance. In fact, books became longer when he was asked to cut them. Question number 6, Frida's opinion on belly rubbing. She's not all that fond of it when other people do it. She's happy when I do it, but not when other people do it. No. Number 7, Schopenhauer was a philosopher, so all he wrote is nonsense. But what do you think of his prose? Many people say he is an amazing writer that can write his philosophy BS with an amazingly clear and beautiful prose. That's actually true. Schopenhauer is a wonderful writer, even in English translation. He's a wonderful writer. It's a shame that he didn't write the novels that he so clearly wanted to. But let's see here. Number 8, did you bring your dogs with you when you visited the North and South Poles? Yes, I did. I also had other dogs with me. Dogs far more better adapted to the bitter cold. And number 9, thought on using different languages in a piece of fiction and not translating it like Aiko did to To be honest, if a person has a smartphone with internet, it's unacceptable that this person can't at least read in 4 or 5 different languages. That's rather harsh of you, isn't it? Jeez, I thought I was tough. With the average time an American spends on TikTok every day, it's possible to become a polyglot in a few years. Wow. This must be like when other people listen to me. I certainly agree that Americans shouldn't be polyglot. So I say, yeah, no need to translate at all. I tend to agree. I tend to agree. I just wouldn't be so hardcore about it. Extra Hero. Okay, Extra Hero's had a few questions. As a modern-day booktube historian, what are signs that a booktuber has become too big? Am I a modern-day booktube historian? Am I really? Is that the nonfiction book I'm going to write? Am I going to write about booktube, baby? Huh? The signs that a booktuber has become too big are easy. And it's not just booktube. It's any YouTube channel. The number one sign that a book YouTube channel has become too big is when the person starts lying to you. And the people who lie on YouTube are under the weird, mistaken impression that it's difficult to tell they're lying. I don't know why they think that. I really don't. But they do universally think that you just don't have any idea that they're lying to you. So if they start to take on fake lying attitudes, fake lying attributes, then their channel has grown too big, or too big in their own mind. I've seen that happen to people who had 1,000 subscribers. So it can happen at any level. It's just a question of how prone you are to pomposity, I would think. And that goes hand in hand with fakeness. Are they lying to you? And how fake are they? How fake is their channel? And do they care even to hide it? So there are booktubers who take on a tired and rote tone of voice, because that's meant to sound like I'm doing my 30th take on this, and the emphasis in my sentences is all wrong, and it's not like spoken speech at all, and they don't even trouble to hide it. That they're just force marching their way through something on a soundstage while Maury in the sound booth fixes all the levels for the syndication out in Palo Alto. Why anyone would do this, if that's their attitude towards what they're doing, I have no idea. I understand why some people would want to put out a professional, polished product. Some people are just like that. In this, as in all cases, I think of Olive at a book Olive. You will never in a million years hear me call Olive fake or phony on her channel. You will never hear me say that her channel is too big. It can't be big enough, considering how good she is. She's just professional. She's never lied on camera, never been fake on camera. She's just, she wants to produce a professional, smooth product. Needless to say, I have a different philosophy about how I do my own booktube, but we're friends because we're not lying to the people who are listening to us. That would be the draw. That would be the line that I'm talking about a spectrum like there for genuine people, whether it's booktuber or anything else. Like, for instance, I was up in Vermont visiting the Richardson family a month ago, and they showed me, I forget his name, a lot of you know him, he's a special effects whiz, and he has a sort of a workshop channel where he positions his camera and then talks about the workshop. He did a Q&A. There was a thing, one episode where he had a bunch of model paint jars, and he wanted to make a perfect container for them, a perfect rack for them. Instead of just using something that wasn't perfect, he wanted to make something to his own specifications that was perfect for just those items. And he took you through the whole process of finding the wood, cutting the holes, finishing the wood, putting it all together, and finished up with a finished paint rack. He had multiple jump cuts, of course, because he was spending the whole day doing this thing. But there was not a moment of falseness anywhere in the video. It was completely engagingly honest the whole time. Whereas I've seen many booktubers who are too big at any size because they have fallen into the habit of purely lying to their audience. They're purely fake. And they seem to think that that's cool. They seem to think, yeah, I'm smiling to you, and that's just the way it's going to happen. The camera stops. I'm so glad that's over. God, I hate these people. I hate this job. I don't know why people do that, especially since there's no money involved. There's no money involved. There's no money involved. There wouldn't be enough money in the world for you to be lying fake piece of crap like that anyway. But we're not talking about any money. I don't know why people think it's somehow cool to be fake and phony on social media, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or anywhere else. On Instagram, you see it all the time. You see people who are just fake. They're just lying to you all the time. so that you run. I mean, this channel has its faults. To put it mildly, this channel has its faults, but insincerity is not one of them. You come across this channel from the wilds of the rest of YouTube, you're going to be caught up short of the fact that I am obviously not lying to you. So those would be my quick shorthand for whether or not a channel of any kind has become too big. Is, does it set off your BS meter? Are you being fed a line? Is the person lying to you? Are they being fake? Are they being phony? Is their enthusiasm forced? All these people think that they're Academy Award-winning actors. They're not. They're not fooling anybody. One way or another. I could go on and on. But let's just continue here. RTLLTR says, curious how horrifying to you the prospect of Donald Trump being reelected again would be. Seems like the nightmare that was his first term could pale in comparison. It will. It will pale in comparison. I think about it a lot. I'm not happy about what's going to happen, but what's going to happen is absolutely unavoidable if you don't punish what's already happened. You have a political party in power now that is not sociopathic. It's not neo-Nazi. It's not perfect. It's got lots and lots of flaws, but it's not neo-Nazi. It's not anti-democratic. It doesn't want to remove your rights. It doesn't want to change the fundamental nature of this country, which is always striving towards a dream. Better to strive towards a dream than to strive towards emulating a leader, towards pleading one person. There are a large number of people in this country who want to turn this into North Korea, as long as they get to be on the party bureau, and they think they will be. And they tried really hard on January 6th. They tried really hard throughout the whole of the Trump administration, culminating in an attempt on January 6th to commit an armed insurrection to overthrow the government by force. And we know the names of a lot of those people. Lauren Boebert, Mo Brooks, Josh Hawley, Matt Gaetz, Jim Jordan, Madison Cawthorn, Marjorie Taylor Greene. These people are still alive. They're still alive. They're still walking around free. There's a huge amount of practical, incontrovertible physical evidence that they conspired to overthrow the United States government. That is an offense that is punishable in American Penal Code by execution. They're still, not only are they free people, but they're still in Congress. They're still making laws. Matt Gaetz is still on the Judicial Committee. They have, aside from Marjorie Taylor Greene, they have powerful committee assignments. They are an entrenched part of government. And they're guilty of trying to overthrow the government. And the party that's in power now has the ability to punish them. And they're not doing it. For a collection, a horrible combination of relatively praiseworthy motives, some craven, a large part of the motivation why the Democrats are not punishing the neo-Nazis currently infesting the United States government, because they're worried about precedent. They're worried that if we go after you and the next election goes against us, you'll come after us. The next election is going to be the last election, if these people get what they want. So you shouldn't worry about precedent. It's amazing to me that we're even still talking about fiddling around with the filibuster instead of getting rid of it, so that we get rid of explicit minority rule in this country. And the people who have not been punished have made it clear they're going to try again. Their followers have certainly made it clear. Their followers have set a date in September when they're going to have another rally at the Capitol. Can you imagine that such a thing is going to be allowed? That's insane. That's absolutely insane. You have a large group of militant people announcing their plans to sack the Capitol a second time, and they haven't been arrested. They're going to be allowed to do it. They're going to be allowed to assemble, and violence is certainly going to erupt. If a group of known conspirators in your government conspire to physically overthrow your government and install an autocracy with a family in power instead of the people, and you don't punish them, then they're going to try again until they're successful. Every single incident in human history tells us that. Every single one. There's never been an exception where that wasn't true. So, when you say seems like a nightmare, his second term could be a nightmare compared to his first one, yes, absolutely. Unless the guilty are punished, unless it's made impossible, it will certainly happen. And I once upon a time thought the timetable was fairly generous. I would have thought those of you who are listening to me who are under 18 will experience it, but not anybody older than that. This is going to happen soon if we don't punish the people who are involved, and we are not punishing them. We're trying to make bipartisan cooperation with people who want to install Donald Trump and his idiot children as hereditary rulers of this country. Anyway, let's move off of politics. I agree. It is a horrifying prospect, and if it happens, it's going to make the first term of Donald Trump look like Jimmy Carter. So let's just move on. Katie Nora L. Says, I have a couple of questions. When you traveled to Seattle, did you ever encounter the Shorey Bookstore? You would have been a mere toddler since it closed 25 years ago. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. If yes, would you tell me if it compares well to the Brattle? Not so much the Brattle. No. As another used bookstore in Boston that's now gone, Goodspeeds. I think Goodspeeds is gone, or some emasculated version of it. It might be limping along. But once upon a time, there was a bookstop in Boston called Goodspeeds. And Shorey compared to that in terms of people hanging out, the kind of incredible book conversations that you could just overhear, the kind of book culture that saturated the place. The Brattle has some of that, but the Brattle is much more of a quick, overturned, going concern. So I would compare it to Goodspeeds, which I guess you'd have to look up online, just like Shorey. You'd have to look it up online. And also, you have mentioned once or twice the possibility of some of your previously owned books being in boxes at the bottom of the Mississippi River. Would you please tell us how that unfortunate event took place? Yes, I boxed up what was then my whole book collection. Because I was thinking, well, my alternative is to... Oh, baby, they want to see you. Oh, no. The star does what the star wants. My alternative at the time, I thought, was to pay to ship them all from Iowa to Boston. And then I got a chance to store them in a basement of a building in Iowa. Unfortunately, I didn't look at the map and didn't realize that the building was on the Mississippi River. And the Mississippi River flooded in, I think, 1993. There was that horrifyingly gigantic flood. And I was just watching day by day as the graphs were showing the river get closer and closer to where I knew all my books were. And then it covered that whole building, it covered that whole town, and my books were gone. So they're long ago swept into the silt of the Mississippi, unfortunately. And as inevitable luck would have it, I did not have an inventory. I actually told myself, you should make an inventory of these things, and I didn't do it. I thought, why? You're going to be seeing them again in a few months, so why bother? I boxed up my bike. I used to live on my 10-speed. I boxed up my bike and mailed that to Boston. I boxed up the books and I did not, and they're gone. So let's see here. Extra Hero says, I just saw a booktuber, Beautiful Bookish Bethany, unhaul about 6 authors' books from her TBR because she believed the authors to be problematic. I don't think unhauling is enough. A bit of a jokester, I think, Carol. Let's read this. Shouldn't there be some sort of law that requires that every book published should contain, on the cover page of every book, an itemized and dated list of all the author's political and philosophical views, as well as any complaints/accusations made against them, so that readers aren't forced to accidentally read or support an author who may have been problematic at some point in their lifetime, and whose beliefs may have differed from current/popular/blue checkmark thinking on the subject. I'm also interested in how to retroactively apply something similar to used/library books, albums, and DVDs. So you're trying to get me into trouble. As Britta would say, you're trying to get me hashtag. I often think about this. I often wonder how painful it must be to booktubers to haul a bunch of books they never have any intention of reading, never read them, and then ostentatiously unhaul them just as ostentatiously as they hauled them, because they're mortified to find out that they don't agree with the political views of the author as expressed in 2021. That must be mortifying. Fortunately, no spines were broken in this protracted episode in virtue signaling hypocrisy. You will, once again, I want to stress, never find that kind of garbage on this channel. You might find all sorts of other kinds of garbage. Plenty of you have said I'm insufferable. Plenty of you have mentioned that you don't always agree with me about everything, but you won't find that kind of stuff here at all. So, should we stop there? Yeah, let's stop there and we'll go on to part 4. I think we're at part 4.